Do you want to know why these AI tools are free? Like ChatGPT, Google, DeepSeek, all these different things.
The entire world is falling in love with ChatGPT, but no one is asking the question, why is it free?
Have you ever stopped and thought, if the app is free, how is it making money?
ChatGPT last week manipulated me, lied to me, and wasted hours of my time. I know that's
The entire world is falling in love with ChatGPT, but no one is asking the question, why is it free? Let's talk about it. As a person who has worked in tech for over 10 years, it is interesting being on the sidelines and watching people respond to technology because no one ever asks the question, why would a piece of technology be free? Here's something I can tell you from inside the industry. Tech is never free. There's either a direct cost, which is what you pay for the app or the software, a subscription cost, or there is an opportunity cost. The opportunity cost is what you as a consumer give up to consume the tech. Here's how that works. When the personal computer came along, it helped us do a great many things, but in the 25 years that we have had the personal computer, there are now children who don't know how to read a clock because the time has always been on their computer since they were born. Same thing with the phone. You don't know anyone's phone number now because that piece of technology was offered to you to help you remember people's phone number. Now, opportunity cost may not mean anything to you when it's like small tasks that you didn't want to do anyway, but here's where it gets interesting. Let's think about the internet. The internet's not free either. Do you think Google would literally run $1 billion company so that you can look up stuff for free? Why do you think they would have offices all over the world, hire people, have billions of dollars on payroll so that y'all can have Google Chrome and Gmail for literally free? Why do you think they would do that? There's a cost somewhere. The cost is advertising attention, advertising space, your data that's been sold to every other company under the sun. I used to work for one of the streaming apps that I guarantee you is in your phone, and I'll tell you right now, your data is being used for more stuff than you think. When, for example, I won't use the company I work for because I have an NDA, but let's say you go into the Uber app and you see something there that says, oh, sign up for Uber One and you get 3 months of Amazon Prime or Apple TV or whatever. Have you ever asked yourself how Apple TV knows that you have the Uber app? It's because they made a deal with Uber with your information. That was a partnership, and money absolutely changed hands to the tunes of several $1 million. When dating apps came along, we thought, oh my God, how wonderful. They made a way for us to interact with each other and date in a pandemic and in a world where we're increasingly isolated. Oh my God, that's so nice. They even have a free tier. Why would they do that? You do see that the opportunity cost was that the dating market was completely destroyed. It destroyed the landscape of how people meet and communicate and have intimacy with each other. We were the cost. So ask yourself, if AI is currently free, why is that? If you've hit this point in the video, I hope you're still listening because I can give you the answer as a spoiler alert. Again, I've been in tech for a very long time, and on my personal time, I study robotics and artificial intelligence. I've been studying this stuff long before ChatGPT ever came out. Here's the spoiler alert. There are companies like Boston Dynamics and Hanson Robotics that have been working on AI bots for a long time. They already have them. For example, there's one called Mecha, who is a robot that can walk and talk. They've now made the movement very fluid, so they move more like us and less robotically. She can also make some 30 different facial expressions and gives you side eye and all of that, right? Do you know what powers Mecha? ChatGPT. There is a AI bot named Sophia who just got citizenship in Saudi Arabia. She has a passport. You know what's powering her? ChatGPT. So if you think that technology is free, what you are actually doing is powering it with how to be us and how to think like us and how to speak like us. And they are using it currently in 2025 to power AI bots. By the way, they already figured out silicone skin, facial expressions, hair, all of that. So enjoy it for free, but just know that no tech is ever free. And there will be an opportunity cost one day. So just use it wisely. Just saying. Auntie loves you.
She just solved it and put it out for free on GitHub. I'm going to tell you all about it. Let me just find something to hold this camera up. Do you know how when you use Claude or Gemini or ChatGPT and you have to go back and like find the chat where you were talking about so-and-so so that the AI can remember all the problems you've already solved together, exactly what you're looking for, what you've already figured out. It's annoying. It's not very efficient. Mila Jovovich, the actress from The Fifth Element. So I'm looking at Mila's GitHub. She and her partner, who is actually a developer, vibe coded this in Claude. Like, wow. It says the highest scoring AI memory system ever benchmarked. Now, side note, I did look. She is asking for feedback. She's asking people to load and to test this new tool. Mem Palace is what it's called, Mem Palace. And she's asking people to test it. She's getting a lot of feedback. There are things that are broken. It's not perfect yet, but she seems to be really excited, taking the feedback. She and her partner, Ben something, are fixing things. Here's what it does. Every conversation that you have with AI, every decision, debugging session, art debate, whatever you talk about with your AI, it disappears after the session ends. You have to go and find that session. It's tricky. What if there was, and I've been talking about this for a while, we need like an AI agent that can see all of your AI conversations, be stored locally so that it's safe. Remember everything about you, all the problem solving you're doing, reference that when you start a new chat. So you don't have to constantly remind it. You don't have to start projects and feed it a bunch of information. That's not very efficient. You need something that actually is like a person that remembers and learns from everything that you've taught it. That is what Mila made. Mem Palace stores everything and makes it findable, because it's like, well, the AI models in the cloud, they can't do that. It takes too much memory. She's kind of fixed that problem. So have you ever heard this strategy where if you're trying to remember something, like if you're studying, you visualize a palace or a house, you visualize rooms, closets, drawers, and if you can visualize information sort of stacked in those areas, then you can remember it better. That's what she does. You create a wing of the palace that is art conversations, another wing of the palace that is philosophical debate, another wing of the palace that is your marketing content. And then you have different rooms, and so the AI doesn't search everything at once. It can just search wherever you direct it inside that Mem Palace. So cool. It stores your actual exchanges in ChromaDB without summarizing, without extracting. So the AI doesn't have to determine what's worth remembering. Everything is stored. I love this. This might be my favorite piece. Mem Palace runs entirely locally on your machine, your computer. So you're able to store your data locally, not in the cloud, not through a subscription. So you're not giving your data away. You're storing it yourself. And it's totally open source. It's free on GitHub. Has anyone tried this? How is it going? Very impressive. I'm Ava, by the way. I study AI stories and I try to retell them here in a really easy to understand way.
Let's talk about capital in AI. Anthropic just announced that they crossed $30 billion in annualized recurring revenue. A month ago, it was 20 billion. At the end of last year, 9 billion. It's not so much of a growth curve as it is a vertical line. 50% month over month growth like that at that scale already in billions of dollars just kind of has no precedent in software. For context, most companies would kill for that rate in millions. And what's driving it is all enterprise. Companies are, of course, embedding these models into very critical workflows for their businesses. I think Claude Code alone was generating like 2.5 billion in run rate revenue by like February. Ultimately, this is really just like the fastest revenue growth in history. And here are a few things I think explain it. One, AI revenue accrues heavily to whoever gets kind of like a foothold first, right? Like OpenAI got the consumer side and really locked that in. Anthropic really ran the market when it came to a coding agent. Like when you think of a coding agent, you think of Claude or you think of Claude Code. First mover advantage compounds heavily in real time, and we're seeing that. Second, of course, AI is uniquely easy to adopt. It's super generalizable. It's human shaped. There is no like complicated UI. The adoption curve that slows down most technologies kind of just doesn't exist here. Third, and I think this is what a lot of people are missing here, every time capabilities increase, a new adoption curve begins. Claude Code unlocked an entirely different kind of demand. As models get better, as functionality gets better, that happens again and again and again. Each capability jump sort of like resets the growth rate. The implication is that the diffusion of this technology through the private economy could actually be a lot faster than anyone even projected. I'm also curious to see what happens to costs and the democratized access that a lot of us have been enjoying.
Today's question is, why are women using AI less than men, and why does that matter? A recent Harvard study found that women are 25% less likely to use generative AI than men, and so there's all of this concern about how that's going to set women back in the workplace. And a couple weeks ago, ChatGPT announces that in 2026, they're going to release adult mode where you can have erotic conversations with the chatbot. So we're having sexy chatbots at the same time that women are the vast majority of victims of deepfake pornography online. Not only is the objectification of women one of the core pillars of the popularity of AI, it's literally built into the fabric of the internet. The first ASCII picture was a nude. The first JPEG was a Playboy model. The first advancements made in video and image compression were because pornography needed to be played faster at a lower bandwidth. But because of women's natural reluctance to use AI, the vast majority of the AI workforce are men, and so the vast majority of the people training the models are men. So the models are trained with a gender and racial bias, and one of the ways that this presents itself is by telling women and minorities to ask for smaller raises. It also affects how fair the hiring process is, and it can affect how your medical data is being processed. As a result, there's more of a call for women to take an active role in the AI industry, or else the future infrastructure of the internet will be built on those existing biases. Personally, I don't think that that's the only solution, and I think that women's critical perspective of AI could be necessary in the conversation at a time when mass immediate adoption seems like the only choice. And I want to bring up the idea of weak perfection popularized by the AI journalist Jacob Ward. He uses the legal system as an example, basically saying that you can input a guilty or non-guilty plea on your phone. In theory, you could optimize that process to make it super simple and quick and seamless. But because it's a decision that affects your entire life, the system makes it inefficient on purpose so that you have time to engage your higher human cognition and make the decision and have time to think about the decision. Maybe we should take women's slower adoption of AI as a sign that we need to become a little bit less impulsive, impatient, and porn-brained when it comes to the difference between decision and action on the internet.
Do you want to know why these AI tools are free? Like ChatGPT, Google, DeepSeek, all these different things. It's because you're the product. They're watching you how to automate yourself, so they will automate you. And that's where all the server and GPUs are being spent. You're the product. Now you know.
Okay, very critical topic today. How AI impacts your ability to do things and build skills, and ways that you can use it to help you, not hurt you. I've been saying this for a while in a couple different ways, but your brain doesn't necessarily value what's easy. Information that flows in effortlessly leaves just as easily. This week, Anthropic published this paper as well as this blog, which I really recommend people read, because it's really critical research on how AI assistance impacts our ability to build skills. Now, they're particularly focused on the ability to code and develop, but it is easily applied to many other critical thinking skills. In a randomized controlled trial with software developers, participants were asked to learn a new Python library. Half of them had access to AI assistance and half of them didn't. The group who had access to AI scored about 17% lower on a test that was meant to capture how much everyone had learned. The biggest skill gap in this test was debugging. So they struggled to figure out when things were wrong and why. Think about what that means. In a world that is consistently, increasingly AI generated, we are losing the skill to identify what AI is doing wrong. The skill to catch mistakes and to critically think about them. This is too important to not talk about, but essentially, the difference isn't just AI versus no AI. It's also how you're using it. Some participants delegated completely, right? Like they asked the AI to write the code, they took it, pasted it, moved on. Others generated code with AI, but asked questions. They wanted explanations. They wanted a walkthrough of the thought process, how the AI was making certain decisions. This matches something that I've been thinking about for a while. Sometimes the struggle is the point. When you get stuck and you have to wrestle with a problem and sit with that uncertainty and try to ask questions about it, try to be better at your decision-making processes, when you have to work to pull understanding out, that's when learning actually happens. AI creates a choice that we didn't really have before. You can use it to eliminate friction entirely, or you can use it to move the friction, to use AI to help you get past some of the more tedious mechanical parts so you can be more efficient while retaining a lot of that conceptual hard work for yourself. So one of my recommendations is to use AI to explain and not just to generate. Ask why something works and not just write this for me or do this for me. Use it to help you think of processes and paths forward and try to reconstruct that logic on your own. If you can't apply something that AI helped you do to solve one problem to another problem yourself, you haven't learned it yet. I have a lot more to say on this, so I'm happy to make other videos. But in my opinion, our critical thinking as human beings is one of our greatest assets. And I think we should find better ways to augment it with AI while maintaining a lot of that hard work and learning that makes us smarter, better, and contribute more to society.
Have AI available to the public is because whenever the videos come out of it doing the things that they're doing to the kids, they're going to say that it's AI. But it's all going to be real.
ChatGPT last week manipulated me, lied to me, and wasted hours of my time. I know that sounds crazy, but I am not lying. Listen to this. It's probably happened to you before as well. I was just generating a lot of different images. I hit it with a pretty advanced prompt. All of a sudden, the image didn't generate in the chat, and instead, ChatGPT told me that it was gonna generate my image in the back end, and it was gonna take 5 minutes to get it back to me. This looked a little odd, so I questioned it. I said, usually you generate them in the chat. Are you sure that you're actually generating it in the background? It said, yes, I can assure you I am generating it in the background, and it is around 20% complete. The reason I'm doing it on the background is because it's more advanced and needs more time. I was like, okay, maybe this is a new feature, right? So I said, when will I know? Are you gonna let me know? It said, yes, I will set a timer. Would you like to set a timer for 5 minutes? I said, sure, I'll be back in 5 minutes. Can I close the chat? It said, yeah. Come back in 5 minutes. It's not done yet. That's when I say it's not done yet. I thought you were generating the image. Where is it? It's been like 10 minutes now. It said, I can assure you it is literally like 5% away from generating. It is at 95% and I'll send it to you shortly. So I literally waited, like going back and forth with AI for an entire hour to get this image, and it ended up never generating. But listen to this. When I started questioning it more, and I said, no, just generate the image now, it didn't do it in the chat. It told me another lie. It said, okay, I will now prioritize your image generation over other users in the system, and I can assure you it'll do it fast as possible. So I said, wait, hold up. There's a feature where you can bypass other users' image generation and prioritize it for me? This all does not sound real. So I said, hold up, wait, did you just lie to me? Is that feature even possible? And it said, no, I do not have that capability. I said, wait, then do you have the capability as well to generate images in the background? And it said, no, I also do not have that ability. And I said, well, then you just lied to me for an entire hour about two things, deceiving me, and I still have no image. I don't know if this is what they fixed with the new update, but I figured I would let you guys know, see if anybody else has experienced this or is experienced this.
If you can't explain why you made a decision for maybe your startup or your business without tracing it back to ChatGPT or Claude, I think you're outsourcing a little bit too much. Personally, I use Claude a lot for organizing, brainstorming, figuring things out, just generating ideas. But I have a rule, which is that AI can think with me, but not for me. Because if I just outsource every single thing to AI, the startup I'm building, Pineway, becomes just another AI-generated startup. So what I do is this. So for content, I usually will just record messy voice notes first and send that over to Claude so that you can process it, refine it based on frameworks that we already have. If it's validation, my business probably more than Claude does because, I'm building for you if you're a coach or consultant, that is. So Claude is not my target audience. You most probably are. So I would rather talk to you than talk to Claude. And if this is a big Pineway decision that I have to make, I'm definitely consulting my co-founders. If we hit a wall, we go to our mentors, our advisors, people who have built, bigger companies, and, that they've done like really cool stuff. So personally, I think that AI is one of the best things to have come out of the last decade. But if you are looking for soul, I think that is definitely best found within you so that you can sound like yourself and not like, just everybody else.
Have you ever stopped and thought, if the app is free, how is it making money? Because when you're not paying with dollars, you are still paying, but it's with something else. Your data. So every time you scroll, tap, or interact with one of these apps, it is taking information about you, what you look at, for how long, even your location or device type. And here's the thing that most people don't realize. A lot of apps include third-party code called SDKs, which is tiny bits of software that send that data to advertisers or analytic companies. Now, those allow tracking pop-ups, that is what they are all about. All of that info gets fed into machine learning models that build a essentially digital version of yourself. What you like, what you don't like, what you ignore, what you might buy next. Then advertisers bid in real time for a few seconds of your attention. That is how free apps make billions, not by selling features to you, but by selling you to advertisers. Now, not all data collection is evil, let's make that clear. It can make some apps smarter or more personalized, but it's only a fair trade-off if you actually know what you are giving up. So the next time you download a free app, ask yourself, would you still use it if the price tag was very clear that it's giving up your data? On another note, do you download apps anymore? I don't know the last time I downloaded an app. Send this to someone who